Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Rapcast. This episode is the second of the player preview episodes, wherein I just want to talk to somebody who I know pays attention to a player's game and kind of get their idea of the player. If you want written work on player previews, stay tuned with RaptorsRepublic.com. Go over there and subscribe, do all that good stuff. But we're here with Mac of running off the screen, which you probably recognize him from. It's on Raptors Republic. We just did an episode that a lot of people enjoyed. They like seeing S and I squirm during the comps and all that kind of stuff. But Mac, how the hell are you, man?
I'm good, man. I just finished eating. Yeah, I'm honored to be on your show. I'm a big time fan.
I had biryani rice and butter chicken today, dude. It put me in a coma.
Oh
I'm
my
surprised you're
goodness.
able. Like, what'd you eat?
I made burgers and I had a Caesar
Hey,
salad.
hey,
'Cause
that's pretty good.
I didn't want to get the carbs up with the fries. So yeah.
That's dude. I'm really proud of you. That's great. Yeah. You know who's eating carbs and working them into muscles? Scotty, the guy we're
Oh.
talking about today. Big man, big trouble over there, Scottie Barnes. I know he's your dude. Like Scotty is everybody's dude to some degree. He's so likable. He's so magnetic. But I know you focus in a little bit closer. So before we get into the upcoming season, I kind of just want to understand the cliff notes of where Scotty Barnes is to you.
Well, I think the first thing that stands out is that he's an everything man. Like he can do a little bit of everything on the court. And going into this season, we all want to see a new thing added to his game. And for me, I believe it should be his shot making. Anything outside of the paint area, where he shot 71% from the rim in the paint. And also with that, I think with Scotty, it's not just improving his shot. I think it's the shot quality as well, right? Because again, like I said, he's a menace in the paint area. So whether it's working his way off ball, developing like quality self-created looks for himself, he needs to continue valuing his strengths on the court. Now, last season, 4 out of the 5 of our starters they had poor self-created ratings, right? Shot quality ratings, and Scotty is in that bunch along with Fred, Gary, who was the worst, and Pascal. So that's probably why our half court offense looked the way it did. So what that means to me, we need to run more motion offense, more pick and rolls and pick and pops, of course. And I think that will help our flow and that will help Scotty's development. Now, when it comes to him using the space given, because people are not really respecting his shot as yet, I think he needs to use that more of a runway, a way to stride and get to the rim, a la Giannis. And I know he's not Giannis, but you know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you can't just obviously you're not going to jog to the rim every possession, so he just needs to generate like creative ways to use his footwork and use unique angles around the rim and finishing in that way. And obviously his free throw shooting needs to improve. We can't look past that. Yes, 73-ish% is good, but someone as athletic and physically imposing as him, and he's really good off the dribble as well, he's going to get to the line. So improving that free throw shooting is something I really want to look forward to in his game.
Man, that's so great that you brought that up because that seems like that's the first skill that Scotty will surpass Pascal in. You know what I mean? Like Pascal, for everything that he does, for whatever reason, Pascal has a tough whistle, I think, relative to the amount of contact he gets, but he's also not as big and burly as Scotty. Scotty is just
Yeah.
a really imposing dude. That's the first thing. Like it's tough to be better than Pascal at playmaking right now. It's tough to be better than him at shot making and like off the dribble pop. But I tell you what, Scotty is gonna put dudes in the mixer over and over again, and they're gonna foul him. So I like that you bring that up, the free throw shooting, the motion offense stuff. Are you wanting Scotty to be like when we think about a pitch play? And maybe it's a DHO. At this point in his career, are you hoping that Scotty is the guy on the end of the pitch or the guy making the read between am I going to pitch it to the guy or am I going to try and do a keeper play and turn it downhill?
I mean, that's the beauty of Scotty, right? He can do either or. And that's why this season I want him to be utilized as like a full-time point guard, of course. But I think the next step in his development, other than the shooting, is maybe trying to match this, like the stats that Ben Simmons had, like the 2018-2019 season. Where he, as far as points, rebounds, and assists go, where he averaged 17, 9, and 8, like just under those numbers. Now, Simmons is a better passer and defender than Scottie at this point. But that doesn't mean Scottie can't develop into that role. And I think that it's like tailor made for his abilities. So when it comes to the DHO that you're mentioning, he can be either or, just like Ben Simmons is. Because on the break, in transition, Ben Simmons is a great point guard. But in the half court, he's great at finding openings, cutting. Like, people underrate his cutting ability and his ability to read the floor and finding openings. And I think that's where Scottie can really dominate this year.
I am very interested to see how he kind of inputs himself because, as you said, the Raptors heading into this season, when you look at last season, low on self-creation to some degree. Like, there's a bunch of guys who are burgeoning. It's an improving part of their game, but also Pascal, like Fred was great at it for a portion of the season. Then his body broke down. He was injured. It stopped working well. Honestly, teams got to go under and not pay. And that meant that he couldn't play make. That meant that he couldn't score out of the pick and roll, which he has to be able to. Pascal was coming back from injury, and then he was obviously all NBA level. OG is a guy who, there's a lot of great parts of OG's game, but nobody could look you in the face and honestly say, like, that self-creation was banging last year. It was working really well. And Scottie was a guy who was mostly taking, the secondary defenders on the defense in isolations, overwhelming them, that kind of stuff. The good news is he'll be able to do that again this year, more than likely. Yes. And the better news is, I hope when we think about transition offense, Gary Trent Jr., Fred VanVleet, those dudes, it's not about ego. It's not about anything. It's just those guys spent a lot of possessions bringing the ball up the floor in transition.
Yeah.
And Fred, there's certainly something to be said for him kind of pushing, being the point guard and getting the ball up the floor, establishing offense. But in most cases, we want to see Scottie or Pascal up the court because those guys make the best reads in the open court. And their reads get a lot simpler when Freddie and Gary are out running in the lanes, kind of spacing out to the three-point line. I'm really interested to see this Raptors team. We saw it in the preseason game against the Utah Jazz. We have another one coming up tomorrow. And we're going to see it. Well, we're going to see it as we keep going along. But this is a team that still wants to turn people over, still wants to run out.
Yeah.
And Scottie made bad decisions in transition against the Jazz, but it's a preseason game. He's good at it. I'm excited to see just how much he can juice his numbers without even touching the half court. You know what I mean?
Yes. And the thing about that too, I look at that starting lineup. I know a lot of people are calling for Precious to start over Gary Trent Jr. Now, if Precious starts, and I understand the argument either way, but if Precious starts, do you think that would kind of slow down Scottie's ability to get open shooters, space out the floor for him to create?
In transition or in the half court?
Half court, I would say.
Honestly, I think that in the regular season, the offense will probably be better with Gary on the floor as opposed to Precious. I don't think that would be that crazy. But in the playoffs and the type of basketball you want to end up playing, teams, if they can keep you on the perimeter, they love that. They remove all of the guaranteed baskets at the rim of you punching gaps on the back end and that kind of stuff. And that's what Precious brings that Gary doesn't. Gary, whether you bend the defense into hell or he's just creating from a static motion, we're talking about a guy who that's ending in a jumper. And Gary is a really great jump shooter, but Precious, I wrote about it, like the offensive wrinkle thing. It came out today is there's countless clips there of just like a guy who's like pump and right to the rim. And that's 2 points every single time. So I'm not really sure about that, especially because Precious shot the ball. He shot 45% above the break threes. After the All-Star break, from February 1st to the end of the season, which is pretty damn good. So the spacing, it remains to be seen. But I also think that Scottie, one of the unique aspects of his game is that he can weaponize players like Precious because Scottie makes the dangerous passes. And
Yeah.
Gary isn't a guy who rewards dangerous passes. He's not a guy who cuts for dangerous passes, but Pascal, OG, Precious, those dudes, Scottie will try and find them at the basket. And that's maybe Scottie coming out of college. That was his number one skill, was being able to pass guys into layups, because that's a rare thing. A lot of guys can, the Raptors kind of dallied around with Patrick McCaw. They'd run horns and just have him be the guy at the top, right? A guy comes off a pin down at the back end, he'll hit a dude. Norm Powell, hit a gap, get to the rim. But Scottie is the guy who he probes a little bit further and tries to get a little bit more dangerous. So Precious, man, it depends, because, well, then let's ask you about the bench lineups then. Scottie, point guard. Fred is going to start, but you want Scottie running that point guard role. What is your view of the guys you want out there in his point guard minutes? Do you want like staggered lineups? Do you want like Scottie plus bench? What are you trying to see happen?
I think Scottie should be the point guard with the starters.
Oh,
I believe that Fred needs to be off ball more often than not. Doesn't mean Freddie won't touch the ball, but I think his usage needs to go down. And someone like Scottie, I just really want to, like, I keep using this Ben Simmons comparison. Obviously, he's going to be a better shooter than Ben Simmons.
he already is.
Yeah, he already is. And like, it's the assist percentage and the assist to usage rate that I want to see climb into the 80th, 90th percentile for Scottie. And I really think our team will thrive off that. Listen, OG is one of the best catch and shoot players in the NBA. Like, I think last year or the year before that, he was like one of 12 players with at least almost 6 attempts shooting 40% from three. And like, Steph is obviously up there and all these elite shooters. So we got to keep utilizing that. And with Pascal, he's one of the best 3-point shooters off that left corner. I want to see him get back over there. I think at one point in the year, he's shooting around 67, 70% from that corner. So a guy like Scottie, using him as the point guard with the starters, keeping the defense honest, I think that's going to boost what he can do. Now with the bench, we don't have much shooting off the bench. That's why I kind of worry. Like, we say Otto Porter Jr., right? But no one's just going to let him shoot. He's going to – you need a little bit more off that bench. That's why I'm a little worried about our bench this year. I think we need another guard who can score, and I'm hoping to get that from Malachi if we don't make any trades.
So this is what I wonder about. So those no guard lineups, that didn't shoot very well last year. The Raptors are going to go back to that. And those no guard lineups were dependent largely on defense and Pascal's creation. I wonder if Scottie can try and imprint himself on those no guard lineups the same way that Pascal did last year. Like, Scottie is the guy who at the point of attack will run like delay action with Thad. We'll find cutters like Boucher. We'll constantly be pushing off the break. And the half-court offense won't be good. And it's not even supposed to be good. They're supposed to be running out in transition a lot, right? And if that seems like one of the roads to getting Pascal a little bit more rest, the guy who led the NBA in minutes, right? So I do wonder about Scottie. He's been in a very comfortable position last season to some degree. Well, maybe that's not even giving him the credit he deserves. He was comfortable after he made a significant progression out of college, I would say. Like, once it became clear that Scottie was a guy who could take dudes off the dribble and ISO, I shouldn't assume that that's comfortable for him, because that's tough to do. Hey, we see guys on the Raptors have a lot of trouble doing that. It's kind of a tough thing. And
your friend OG, right?
Right. He has a tough time with it. And Scottie, I do wonder if you just kind of like, he's one of those players, you give him the ball, you see what happens. You just kind of see what comes back. And I'm interested about those bench lineups to see how inventive he can be as a guy who initiates offense with limited players around him. And
so who's the bench lineup that you would use with him to like really make it work?
I think that there's a lot of potential, in my opinion, for like Boucher, Thad, Precious, Otto, and Scottie.
That's a big lineup.
I just because Pascal can be out there, of course, because that Pascal, Scottie, Precious, Chris Boucher lineup from last year was like that 4-man lineup was incredible.
Yeah.
And sometimes they had a guard like Gary, sometimes they had a guard like Fred, sometimes they had Thad in there. And I'd like to see Scottie try and thrive without Pascal a little bit. That's what people wanted
Mm.
last year. And the best thing last year was obviously to let Pascal cook and let Scottie kind of adapt to playing off ball. He wouldn't get doubled when he isolated. But if you make Scottie the guy who's the difference maker on the floor in those bench lineups, I do wonder if he gets more adept at attacking doubles, if he gets more adept at finding like these tighter windows on the interior because the spacing might not be as good. And hey, maybe Precious keeps hitting 45% from above the break, and then
Yeah.
the space and Otto is like a heat pump from everywhere on the court for 8 years now. Maybe he can create and do great things there, but I think that that's one of the things I'm most excited for is where Scottie gets those point guard minutes, how much of them put Fred off ball and how much of them put Fred on the bench is one of the things I'm definitely kind of, wondering how that plays out.
That's very interesting. So with that bench lineup, let's say Otto Porter is not available because of injuries. Who would fill in that spot? Is it going to be Delano? Is it Like who's going to make that?
I mean, Champagne has to make the team. I like Champagne. I want to
I
make
don't
the
even
team.
know. It's not looking good for him
But
though. Eh?
well, Josh Jackson looked really, really good. And so
Yeah.
yeah, Champagne has to make the team. But Delano can squeeze in a pinch. Especially if you plan on, you know, Delano didn't have good defensive reps at the G League level last year, but he
Mhm.
certainly had some games where he had really great defensive reps, at the NBA level. And a guy who just pushes in transition, you know, Delano wants to be the guy pushing. Scottie wants to be the guy pushing. We'll see. And, if it does settle into the half court, Delano is much less inventive as like a cutter than guys like Boucher or an offensive rebounder like Precious or a secondary playmaker like that kind of stuff, or a shooter like Otto. But
Mhm.
Delano, he's got to get his minutes somewhere too. He factors in a way as well. But yeah, there's a few different configurations that they can do. That's the benefit of getting a little bit deeper than last year, where Nick Nurse was like, I have two configurations. It's subbing in the guy who's the sixth man, and then subbing him out to put the starter back in. Like, we're only playing six guys. And yeah, I'd like to see a couple different variations of it, but mostly just kind of to stretch Scottie's conception of who he's playmaking for and how defenses react to that, which is a tough position. So maybe we should talk about what might be easy this year when he's playing next to the starter. So let's say Pascal has the ball. What do you want to see Scottie doing for the most part?
He needs to cut or go into that mid post area and go to work. Now he has to find mismatches. Of course, if he has a big on him, he's not going to go in the mid post, right? And if you're running him at the point, so you're saying if Pascal is running the point and then Scottie's just running off ball, yeah, he has to do his work in the post area, like just position himself, get in that spot, a la maybe Marc Gasol, play make from that area. Now, I think he's more of a catch and finish guy. That's what I would want him to do. If he's in the post and looking around, I want him to be my playmaker. But if he's running off the ball and he's has a clear lane to the rim, just catch and dunk. So that's what I envision for him. But I had a quick question for you. I just came up in my head. Do you think there's a difference between Scottie being a willing passer and an elite passer? Like, is there going to be a point where he can't get to those 8 assists I'm asking for? Do you think he's like
So I think Scottie's an elite passer.
okay?
And so the delineation that, it's like the basketball nerd stuff is playmaking versus passing.
Yeah, exactly.
The skill of passing, Scottie can make passes that Pascal can't make. But Pascal can break down a defense because of his other tools to make easier passes that lead to points for teammates. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
I get it. Yeah.
Scottie doesn't have all that Pascal has. He doesn't have all that a lot of the wing creators have yet. He's young. He may very well develop all of it. But Scottie's a guy like you you put my life on the line. The gun is to my head, dude. And you say somebody on this team has to fit a ball through like a pinhole and get it to dude on the other side. I'm not picking Fred. I'm not picking Pascal. I'm picking Scottie. And Scottie might just do it on the run without looking. He might risk my life just for fun. That's how talented he is as like a passer. So like that's the Raptors, Blake Murphy wrote about it. It's the Raptors play. It's that rip screen. That Kyle used to throw the oop to DeMar all the time.
Yes, yeah.
Scottie and Pascal hit on that last year against Brooklyn. Scottie hit Pascal on the oop. They started running it. It became a part of their package again, like fun stuff. But they don't. Pascal is the one they want making like those post entry passes and getting guys the early work. But if you want a guy to throw a laser beam from half court into a dude's hands for a dunk, that's Scottie. Which also we'll move on to the defense after this, but that's also kind of a way that you can create with Scottie is his touches are quite high. His creation level isn't. And so what you're thinking about with guys like this is if you give a guy a lot of touches, it means that you want him to make a lot of reads. And I really like the Raptors putting Scottie in a position where he doesn't necessarily have to create, but he does have to make a read because his reads of the floor are, from the perimeter are going to be better a lot of the times than Pascal's. They're going to be a lot better than Fred's a lot of the time, especially since he'll have the height and the angle to create passing lanes. They'll be better than OG's. So use this guy as a hub to connect. And then, on other plays too, you can allow him to try and create and work on his game and stuff like that. But just using him as the in-between guy so that if there's a back cut, he's the guy who's making that read. He's going to make that pass. If there's an opportunity to put the ball on the floor, instead of a guy like Thad Young or Precious Achiuwa making that read, it's Scottie seeing the defense get lazy and shift out of the lane where he can punch it, that kind of stuff. So I think that's a big benefit of Scottie too, is just like having a guy who can make a bunch of reads and make a bunch of good ones. And I'm excited, especially as you say, like the shooting has to get better outside of the paint. He was awesome in there, especially from the short mid-range too. But if he can make teams respect his ability to like catch, pivot out, and hit a shot from like 18 feet and out, then all those actions get extremely hairy for other teams. But the defense, then we're talking about a guy who this was a big selling point coming out of college. I've been on wax saying I thought it was bad early on in the year, but also that I thought he was a positive by the end of the year. And being a positive defender as a rookie is a really, really big deal. I'm curious where you think he's currently at.
Well, I believe, the analytics say that he's one of the best or highest rated positional defenders out there. I think he was like top 5, like from all the grades from 2013 all the way up to last year. He's in the top 5. And I think OG is like 8th or whatever. Who cares, right? But
Can I ask what does that mean to you?
That means to me that no matter who's on the floor, he can guard them. And I've watched film where in college in Florida State, I think it was against UNC. I watched him guard a point guard, keep him in front of him. The point guard passed it to the center. He got switched onto the center, and he kept the center out the paint. And he did it multiple times that game. And that was before he was drafted, obviously. And that's what I did a film study on that. And this is when I said I wanted Scottie to be a dark horse pick for Raptors, and I got like attacked. Everyone's like, "What? It sucks." But
who's your plug, dude? You pick the guy every single year. There you go.
It's weird, yeah. Well, I really like Kuminga, but I said Scottie is a dark horse pick, and everyone just said, "Nope, you don't know what you're talking about. He doesn't play basketball." But anyway, I seen that play on that UNC game. I'm sure there's plenty more games where I did it, and I knew that was going to translate. Now he's just a rookie, and he gets a little bit anxious at times, and he gets too excited when he sees a guard in front of him, and it allows him to blow by him or trick him and do fakes. And I think once he gets a little bit more settled, slows down his mind on the defensive end, he's going to be elite across the board, and that's why I keep harping this Ben Simmons comparison, because as much as people don't like Ben Simmons because of how he's dealt with his career the last few years and he can't shoot,
he's a good player, man.
He's a great comparison for Scottie. Like great comparison. That's why I keep leaning back to that. And he's an elite defender. People don't realize how good a defender Ben Simmons was. Now they probably do, but they probably forgot now, right? And that's where I want Scottie to be within the next year or two. Now, if he turns into an ISO scorer, great. But defensively, I want him to be like exactly like how Ben Simmons is.
It's so I'll be honest, my opinion of Scottie's on-ball defense is fairly low. And so and full honesty, the versatility metrics don't move me that much. Like I want efficacy with the versatility.
Yeah, yeah,
And as you say, Scottie, he gets excited. He plays too high on ball handlers. He doesn't allow, because when you play high, you don't allow your length to do the work for you. You're trying
yeah,
to rely on speed. And this is a guy who, as you say, like making that switch from the UNC point guard onto the center. That's a big deal. But a UNC point guard is not the NBA point guard. And like picking up a Gardner Webb point guard when he's at FSU full court is not the same as picking up Jimmy Butler full court. It's just he didn't change approach from college to the NBA on ball. He did learn and kind of change his approach off ball, though, and I thought that was great. I do understand why you have optimism, though, and I would love to be wrong about it. I can see an avenue of where I'm wrong because Boris Diaw played incredible defense on LeBron James in the finals, right? It's like
yes,
tremendous feel mixed with length. And not that Scottie is Boris Diaw. Scottie is significantly more gifted, has more spring, has more pop than Boris, but we have to see Scottie use his strengths defensively, his real strengths, instead of like that, I'm the dog up on a dude. Like what Fred did to Colin Sexton early part of the
yeah,
preseason game. Scottie wants to do that to everybody, every possession.
yeah,
And it's part of being better at defense is understanding that you don't have to. OG is a good example. Jordan Clarkson tried to boogie on him. Did
yeah.
OG jump him?
Nope.
No. OG waited for the pickup. So yeah, I'm Scottie. I would love for him to be your vision of him defensively. I hope it happens. I'm lower for sure, but I see why you're there.
It's interesting that you said defensively he has to stick to his strengths, and earlier on I said offensively he has to stick to his strength. So do you think it's an awareness thing that, or he's just trying to find who he is on the court, why he's not exactly where we want him to be yet on both
Well,
ends of the court?
he's not where we want him to be because you and I are both selfish and we want a superstar. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he's Scottie, truthfully, let we zoom out, he's doing just fine. Like he's doing quite well. But is he where we want him to be? Is it an awareness thing? To some degree, of course it is. Yeah. This is a guy who half of NBA, like we see guys with Joe Ingles was a really good player in the NBA. You look at raw talent, athletic ability, all this kind of stuff. Why is Joe Ingles in the NBA? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
there's guys like Tyus Thomas who didn't make it, who could jump out of the gym, who had like a little bit of off the dribble game, all this kind of stuff. And knowing how to input yourself on the court is such a big part of it. And seeing how Scottie maps the court as a playmaker, especially, it's hard to see a vision of the future where he's not mapping the court defensively really well too. Like Scottie should be, by all counts, a guy who, if he's picking up 94 feet, which I don't like, but if he's doing that, he should be a guy who knows, like when you see a guy like, I don't like Patrick Beverley that much, but he's good when he picks up, 94 feet. He has a good awareness of when the screen is coming and to drop out of it and then to re-engage. And like
yeah.
you have to know and you have to know where the help is, even when the court is big, not just when the court is small. You have to know where the help is when the court is big. And Scottie he's really locked in to that on-ball defense stuff. We saw it. We saw it at the end of games. We saw it cost the Raptors, where Scottie was like, "I'm the guy," and he loses a man, and he
Yeah.
stops rotating. He's just like, "Damn, I got beat. I hate that."
I mean
And,
that Luca play is burned in my mind where he just let him shoot the ball. But yeah,
and of course, Scottie will transcend past that.
yes,
And
for sure.
I hope that whatever he transcends to, I hope that it's all defense. I wouldn't bet on all defense. I would bet on all stars. I would bet on all kinds of stuff for Scottie. I wouldn't bet on all defense though. But
I
I
would.
certainly hope I'm wrong. Man,
Oh,
I hope I'm wrong, dude.
okay.
Yeah,
If
give me the pitch.
okay, I don't think we realize who this guy is. He is a beat. Okay, he has a 7'3" wingspan for one, right?
Mhm.
He's about 6'9". He had a 39.5 max vertical at the combine.
Pretty good.
That 36 standing vertical, ranked third in the combine. 2.99 shuttle run, ranked second in the combine. He has all the physical traits of an elite defender. It's just his mind. And I think if that's all you're missing, just the mindset and your coach telling you where to be and just getting you locked in and settling down on you're gonna skyrocket. A lot of these guys, they have the talent. It's the mind that's holding them back. And I think once that thing clicks, it's over for the league. Now I don't want to sound like a homer, but
No,
this guy,
this is good. Very few people actually go to town trying to, like, at least very few people go to town trying to sell the Scottie all defense thing. I want to hear it.
But like he physically has every single. He has a 9-foot standing reach. He's gonna be a decent rim protector, at least on the help side. Like it's all there. It's all a mindset. It's all schematics, and I think he's gonna get there. Now, can Nick Nurse unlock it? I think it's gonna be on Scottie to do it. But if you have a guy like OG around you, Pascal's a great defender. You have the right guys around you to put you in position. Fred, you have the right guys to put you in the right positions to make you an elite defender. And Precious, he has a full team of guys who have that ability that he can watch, he could study, he can learn, and he already has the tools. So it just makes sense that he's going to get to that point. He's only 21?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
So there's a few things that stick in my head when you say like weak side rim protector or a guy who's in the paint and can hold it down. I think of that December 10th game against the Knicks where he had like 15 or maybe it's like even just an insane amount of rebounds and he played drop in that game. And I think about Scottie using his length kind of to deter things rather than his activity. Like he let the guys come to him, then boom, meet him at the rim. Then with that great second jump, that vert, beat him in the air for the rebound, that kind of stuff. He can do it against, like as a rookie, he could do it against certain front courts. That's a huge deal. Then we see him at the point of attack against the 76ers, probably knowing that Harden is not as spry as he once was, kind of being up in a dude's grill was a good thing. But he also kind of alternated between being up on him and then playing closer to the screen and allowing his length to kind of keep Harden at bay so that he could also switch. This is like, these are really good inputs of his athleticism, his defensive talent. But I do wonder, honestly, like if it's the screen navigation, it's the subtler points of defense that you're not guaranteed to get better at, that it's hard to get better at that large size. Like Giannis is incredible. Giannis is not going to navigate a screen, and there's a reason they keep him away from the perimeter, right? Scottie probably has a better future as a perimeter defender than Giannis, of course, but it's just I'm waiting to see some of the finer points of defense come along, and I totally understand why you are so bullish on all of those things kind of coalescing into all defense. I certainly hope, like, it's hard to be a top 10 defender in the league, especially since no one's going to give him the votes, right? Like there's something going on.
And his team is full of great defenders. So it's going to be hard for him to be that one guy to stand out. So,
but this is, man. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, like, what is your expectation for him, like, this year? Like, what do you envision but by the end of the year, what is he going to be?
So when I think I'll do the defense first. When I think of the defense, I think that Pascal, OG, and Precious, all those three guys are better on-ball defenders than Scottie. And by like it ranges from a lot to a meaningful amount, in my opinion. Defensively, I love seeing Scottie kind of, if he could emulate more of that Pascal off-ball stuff. Like Pascal, the numbers don't really recognize what Pascal does, and they probably won't fully recognize what Scottie does either. But Scottie was near the top of the league in closeouts as well. This is a guy who was responding to breakdowns, and he's trying to put out fires. And there's nobody better at putting out fires in the NBA than a long wing who has like a mind for defense, has really great feel. Yeah.
Sorry, before you, wasn't Pascal led the league in that 3 years in a row or something, right? In closeouts?
I don't know about 2020-21 or even 19-20, but I know he did this past season.
Okay,
But
sorry.
with
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me for the year that the bubble came along. But the injuries in Tampa, I wonder if
that
just because
held
he
that
missed the
back.
end of the season. Hmm.
Yeah,
You
sorry,
you
sorry for cutting you off. Yeah,
yeah. No, that makes sense. But when I think of Scotty, and you talk about like shuttle drill, you talk about standing reach, you talk about a guy who can hang on a switch. I love that guy because that's a guy who can step out late in shot clock, and that's where being aggressive is can really be quite good. Late in shot clock, you jump a dude, you get him to backpedal. Now you're cooking with gas. I
yeah,
love him as a weak side rim protector who can not only come over and contest the shot at the rim, but can also hang around afterwards and try and clean the glass. Like those are the ways I want to see him used, not as a guy who's kind of walked out there to be a stopper on ball.
yeah.
And that's the way I want to see him used defensively for the most part. I expect him to be a meaningful positive defensively this season. Offensively, I expect him to be, man, one of the best transition players in the NBA. I expect him to be a guy who still Freddie and Pascal are going to get doubled a lot this year. Guys like Precious that, he's going to hit his threes. He's going to attack closeouts. He's going to detonate at the rim, of course. Scotty won't draw the same types of closeouts. He's not the same type of like quick twitch, get that first step going downhill athlete as Precious is. But
Mhm.
Scotty's a guy who, like, man, he gets the ball. There's 12 seconds left on the shot clock. We saw it against Utah. It's preseason, but we saw it his whole first rookie year too. He's like 20 feet from the basket. There's a guy who's 6'6" on him. Suddenly he's at the rim. Like he's
Yeah.
just like, yep, you're coming with me. I'll put you in my pocket. I'm taking you to the bucket. And I expect lots of that. I expect lots of heady cutting. I expect more screen action for him. And I mean, if Nick Nurse
Actually runs plays. Yeah,
if Nick Nurse allows him to run pick and roll,
yeah,
I would just love to see his playmaking out of that. Because the pick and roll, we saw it against the Lakers. They ran a lot of pick and roll with Scotty. He was their
yeah,
go-to guy at the end of the game. It was a really fun game. But if you give a guy like Scotty who when he picks up his dribble from 18 feet and in, he's at the bucket. It's two steps, he's there. And you get a guy like put in a screen and roll action where there might be miscommunication, he gets an edge. That's death for the defense. And even if there's a guy who steps up, do I trust anybody on the team to be better at making reads out to the corner or on laydowns or stuff like that? Probably not. I just want to see Scotty put in more situations where he's headed downhill. Transition will solve so much of that. But I mean, putting the ball in his hand in a few more actions will also solve that too. And also Pascal becoming a better shooter this year for spacing purposes, Precious maintaining that inertia from a good year of shooting, that helps a lot. OG kind of taking it on the chin and being like, I'll be the dude in the corner. I'll cut against the weak side zone. I'll drag guys around with my gravity. That will be meaningful. Gary and Fred obviously shoot the hell out of the ball. Otto's going to shoot the hell out of the ball. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it should be an exciting year for Scotty for sure.
So with Scotty as the point, it's going to be an effective offense, you believe, if we start running some pick and roll or pick
Well,
and
the
pops.
the Raptors were 26th in half court offense last year.
Yeah, yeah.
Effective is an interesting word. It will. I expect the offense in the half court to be better this year. Certainly,
I mean, one could argue that they weren't as good because of the pick and roll, but also there are so many injuries, maybe
I think they.
synergy,
Oh,
chemistry. Yeah,
I think they weren't as good because they didn't run enough pick and roll.
yeah,
Genuinely, I do. But do I think they'll be effective? If they got into the like top half of the league in half court offense, this team, that's probably a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. If their half court offense is working to that degree,
hmm,
considering where they get the rest of their offense, just kind of pushing in transition, turnovers. Their defense finished 9th last year, was 4th for the back half of the year. They're probably a top 4 team if that half court offense climbs up. And if Scotty like takes that jump, can create, draws doubles, gets a lot of attention, that step is coming at some point in his career. Is it this year? Is it year 3, year 4? I'm not sure. It's coming. But yeah, Scotty making that type of leap is what that can really transfer. Well, I think it's mostly on you get either the Scotty leap, which I think most people feel like you could get. Everyone expects leaps in year 3. You
yeah.
get that PAL somewhat improbable leap from top 20 to top 10. He wants to be top 5. He has to hit pull-up threes. He has to hit catch and shoot threes above the break to make that happen. But if those things happen, he might give you that impact. And then OG. And OG is probably seems like the least likely of them at this point. But those seems like Precious. I don't know. Precious, he's a mystery box, dude. Precious could give you 27 a game this year. I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't. My heart still thinks that this team needs another guard. I know it's tough. It's tough seeing. Like, I know I went to the Edmonton game. It was great seeing them play, and I see the vision. But man, Doughton, maybe Doughton can get a guarantee, and they move. I don't know, because it seems like I think Nick Nurse said something about Doughton. It's kind of like battling for a spot too, but it's kind of interesting to say that, considering he's a two-way. So maybe they're you know what I mean? Maybe they're gonna give Gabe Brown a two-way and then make Doughton guarantee. You don't know, right?
Well, that's it. Could be a couple things. It could be that they think Doughton is battling for a spot on the squad, a guaranteed, and Gabe Brown will slot into that two-way, or they think that Doughton is fighting to not lose the two-way to Gabe Brown or something like that.
Oh, straight up, yeah.
It could be like that. You can cut a guy from a two-way. That's easy peasy for an NBA team, And like Doughton, he looked comfortable by the end of that game. I'm sure you agree with that. But off the start, he was a guy who was kind of like on pins and needles, trying to be herky-jerky and create. I felt bad for him because it's tough to just jump in a game and be a dude who snakes pick and rolls and hits 17-footers against contests. Like Malachi's been living that, that hell for like 2 years. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I'd like to see happen, but I won't just because I'm not high on Scottie's defense, for example, as you, doesn't mean I'll say it won't happen. Because
I mean, we don't need. He's gonna be a decent defender. We don't need him to be an all-world defender, right? We have a bunch of pieces that could do that for him. We just want more playmaking, more attacking the rim, and hit your free throws. I think he's gonna have a great year. That's the key. I'm not even worried about the 3-point shot right now.
Me either. People are obsessed. They think that the 3-point shot is the first development for everybody. I'm here to tell you, it is not the first development. Because in the NBA, you develop like this stationary 3-point shot. Guess what? They're gonna run you off the line. Now what do you do? Mm-hmm. Did you work on the rest of your game? Is it like, are you gonna get downhill and make the reads? Scottie can, but some guys can't. Like Gary has to fill out parts of his game that other guys have had for a long time. And Gary has things that other guys may never have too. But it's not always the shooting from three. I think that the general sentiment around like 3-point shooting is a little bit too simplified for my taste anyway. And Scottie, considering how often he has the ball with the head of steam going towards the basket, that 3-point shot, it's not the thing I want to see most. There's a lot of things he could add for sure.
I mean, his 3-point shot is going to be and ones, right? He's going to get to the rim, get fouled, dunk.
the old school 3-point play. That's the way to do it. That feels like a decent kind of run around on the Scottie stuff. I love, like, you know what? There's nothing better for podcasting than when there's like two dudes who have a good time and disagree, and we found that here today. Which is so good. Is there anything that we haven't talked about regarding Scottie that you kind of want to say to the listeners?
I mean, stay tuned. I don't know what else to say. Like, he is who we think he is. Like, coming in from the draft, he was a high energy playmaker, versatile player. He was a guy who was considered a glue guy, but I guess that perspective changed. Now people think of him as a piece, like a key core piece. Doing so, I don't know. There's not, like, people know who he is. Now it's up to him to change our perspectives and become a ISO guy, and I think he's gonna do it. I think he's gonna be an elite defender. I hope I'm right. I hope you're right, and then let's see.
So for the listener, for the viewer, stay tuned with us because on Mac's podcast that I was on just recently, we had a conversation about OG being a better player currently than Scottie, which was my opinion. That was not Mac's opinion. And about 15 to 20 games into the season, it's not like a debate, but we will revisit the topic with all the film on hand. And I think that'll be really fun because we had I could tell Mac he wanted yeah, that's a fun conversation to have. So sometime around 15, 20 games, we'll take a look at the film, what's been happening for the Raptors, and we will revisit that topic, the two of us.
Yeah, I wanted to go on a rant, but like you guys were guests, and like it wasn't the point of the conversation at the time, right? That wasn't even the comparison we were talking about at the time. So yeah, it's gonna be a great debate. 15 to 20 games in, it's gonna be fun.
I'm excited to see kind of how it shakes out because I could look silly, dude. Scottie, who
I could look
knows?
silly.
Like maybe, Scottie especially, that dude could throw in a jetpack this year. And who knows? And like maybe at 15, 20 games, it's like a 1 minute pod and I say, hey, Mac, you were right, by the way. It's not particularly close.
Okay, one thing I'll say about Scottie. There's not many guys that can get quiet 20 and 10 games, and he's
Yeah.
done that many times last year.
That's
That's an elite trait.
that absolutely, like you're bang on that Scottie is. This is what I talked about this is what I used to talk about with Pascal in that 2019-20 season. I was kind of like, this dude is sleepwalking to insane numbers. You blink and they're at 14 points. And you're like, how the hell did this happen?
Exactly.
And especially with Pascal lost the stars he developed next to, and then stuff became really hard. Scottie, it doesn't look like he's going to lose anybody. All the easy stuff that he just gobbles up, that isn't a guarantee to go. Just because it's easy doesn't mean that everybody's taking it, and doesn't mean that your team will take it either. Scottie getting a rebound after he misses and then dunking it, not everybody can do that. Yeah, I love that you bring that up. Like sleepwalking to like 20 and 14 as a rookie, it should turn your head. You should be like, well, damn, there's something going on here.
Remember earlier in that year, against I think it was the Celtics, he had like 26 and 11, like nothing.
Yeah, man.
He was just light work.
he was jogging up and down the court.
Yeah.
And he got 26 and 11. That's what he was doing. It wasn't nothing crazy was happening. He wasn't like busting dudes off the dribble. He was just running from end line to end line. And he's like, damn, basketball easy game when you're a big, imposing dude who wants to get after it.
Yeah, no play is called for him, so that's why I'm very optimistic on him, because it's too easy.
Yeah. That's that feels like as good a place to end it. I feel like this was a really great conversation around like what Scottie is, what he might be, since nobody can really say what that is. It's tough to project any player. Scottie, it's impossible, it seems. But Mac, the floor is yours to plug yourself however you want to. Tell the people where to find you, what you have coming up, all that kind of stuff.
You can find me on Raptors Republic, running off the screen. My next episode, I'm juggling with what I want to talk about. I'm thinking between training camp battle, giving a like an in-depth background of each player that's trying to make the team, give you all the way up to their high school and elementary days, all the way up to now. I'll try and do that, and then you could get a bigger picture and feel a little bit more connected to them. And subscribe to RR. We got that paywall going, right?
Yeah, actually, if I can take a moment. So with the paywall, and so, listen, here's the thing. We don't mean to offend anybody. There's a lot of free stuff still available. But the thing is, when we announce a paywall, that's not an affront to you, listener. That's not an affront to anybody. So if anybody has the urge, when somebody says, hey, we're actually going to be asking for money, to try and lay out why we actually don't deserve to get paid for what we do, I promise you, that is not it. We deserve to get paid. And I'm here to tell you, the people who will be behind the paywall, that work is valued across the world. That work is valued across industries. And like, you have to pay for stuff. The The internet is tough to monetize on, and unless you want 3 sentences between ads, not even full paragraphs, you wanna be, like, on this buggy ass site, this is us coming to you and saying, "Hey, the people here are really good at what they do, and Raptors Republic is a massive part of Raptors coverage, and we're saying we wanna pay people." You don't have to pay. You certainly don't. You can enjoy
No.
all the free stuff, but I tell you what, it's not we didn't come to this decision lightly. We didn't come to this decision out of selfishness. It's just wanting people to be paid for what they do. And if that upsets you, uh honestly, tough. Sorry to say, but like the work is worth stuff, whether you like it or not. So yeah, get off my soapbox, Mac. You were a tremendous guest. I love the conversations we have. We will have many of them during this season. And yes, one in particular, we're both kind of linking up for. We might both wear boxing shorts to that podcast,
Yeah.
dude. Or maybe you'll fly into Toronto and we'll like ding
Do
ding
a-
ding.
I mean, I could fly in. We could do like a in studio, like both of us talking it out.
That would
Maybe
be
have a
dope.
whiteboard. Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah. That would be super fun. Raptors Republic wants to host live events and stuff. Maybe, we do a live podcast someday, you
That'd be
know,
good.
all that kind of stuff. But yeah, listener, thanks for listening. If you're on the podcast channel, if you're on YouTube, make sure to like the video. That helps everything. Mac running off the screen. I'm saying it first. That's going to be the most watched stuff on Raptors Republic channel this year. Mac is tremendous at what he does. And yeah, just stay tuned with his stuff. And yeah, we'll get out here. Mac, thank you. Listener, thanks. We'll see ya.